Roland, during World Cups, it's commonly held that it's the longest off season in history, except that now we're in the longest off season in history. So, how's it been for you?
Oh, don't know where to start really. Mixture of emotions from the season finishing and the early finish, and initially the frustrations and disappointment of that, to the pretty quick realisation of what's happening in the world, and then trying to balance two dogs and a rabbit and a wife and four kids and homeschooling and trying to replanning a squad and a rugby club and all the things that go in. It's been pretty tricky, but we're in a pretty good spot, and it's given a lot of time for me to be doing a bit more thinking, a bit more reviewing, and giving a chance to have a bit of a reset as well, and pretty refreshed and obviously raring to go, hoping that this lockdown speeds up a little bit and we can get back into action as soon as possible.
Fourth place finish, fair result, do you think?
Uh, that's the competitor in me thinks that we were getting better and better, and I think from a group we had a better understanding in the last month or so of the season, of how we want to play. We were looking a little bit more composed on the pitch. We were keeping the boys together a little bit more, and we were getting there. And I think that performance at Doncaster was going to keep going. And I think we could have got a bit closer to third. We were looking forward to obviously having turnaround games against the sort of Hartbury's and Amptons and the teams that we think we should have done better at. And then Jersey and Pirates at the end of the season sort of created a good finale, and we're gutted it finished early, but obviously the right decision. But I think the fourth place, an improvement on the year before, definitely, but I think we could have had one more in us maybe.
What's if there's one learning that you've taken from the championship this year compared to last year, what would it be?
It's difficult to pinpoint one, Chris, to be honest, but I've now appreciated the probably how we need to be more consistent in our approach. The first year in the championship, we played around with quite a lot. Played around with selection, we played around with styles, and we probably weren't consistent in our messaging off the pitch, which created a little bit of uncertainty on the pitch for the boys at times. And as we got just past Christmas, sort of post, I think, the Amstel game, we started to become a bit more consistent. We drove the boys a lot more, and the messages we were giving were better. And that's probably the biggest disappointment of why the season finished early, really, because we were in a really good spot and we were really moving forward on and off the pitch at the club in many ways. And it's kind of cutting us short means that sort of thought about where we could have been and where we could have gone is probably the biggest disappointment. But that learning is consistency in everything we do. We were learning lessons. Second year in, we were making less mistakes, and that's where we're excited to get back to, really.
The margins between the top of National One and eighth, and then eighth to fourth. Are they finer, but in that middle section of the championship compared to coming up?
Yeah, look at the history of the last 5, 6, 10 years or so of the championship. A win can actually mean more than an extra win in the season can be in another league spot. So it's actually understanding what it takes to get that win, and probably understanding how established some of these clubs are in the championship and who we're coming up against. Wily old characters week in, week out, and there's not an easy game. And I know that's a cliche, and everyone wants to say it, and every director of rugby rolls it off every week. But from eighth to fourth, we didn't change too much from what we did at the end of the season, just becoming more consistent at it, and they are small margins all the way. The next step from fourth to third, or third to second, or second to first, they are even finer margins, and we need to get our act together ready for that as well.
Championship, for people who don't watch it a lot, people can think about it as being, it's got a reputation as being very forward oriented, as being quite slow. But obviously, do you think that having Saracens in the league next year will help waken the broader rugby public out to what the reality is, which is a lot of attacking rugby, a lot of youngsters? Yes, there are guys who are a bit older, but that experience plays into very competitive rugby as well.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit more context into it, that the last 5 or 6 years or so, the relegation scrap has been pretty tight, and naturally the amount of money, in National One we were getting £3,000-4,000 a year from the RFU, and then you go up a league and you get in 500-600 grand in central funding, and so therefore can you afford to go up? Majority of the teams in the league probably can't, so it's a case of staying in the league, and then naturally as those pressures and the finances come in, the style of rugby and what you tend to do tend to be more about not losing a game rather than going out to win it, and that's probably the biggest challenge. I think this last season's been much better, and that's partly probably because teams are evolving their game, but also because Yorkshire Carnegie were rock bottom and so far adrift that it took the pressure off everybody else and they could play a bit better rugby. And that's the balance from a director of rugby or a coaching staff. It's the balance you're often, you want to go out and win a game. Absolutely, of course you do. But there are times in those games when you start talking about shutting up shop or game management and so on. And actually, what you're really doing is balancing that fear of losing. And that's the tough balance we try and go through. With Saracens in the league next year, what you're insinuating is that they potentially will come down and then go straight back up.
Well, no,
Means...
no, I'm not insinuating that. That's not what I said, because people will assume that anyway. But because more people will watch it, is that they'll see, they'll see every team has the ability to run it from anywhere. Is that you look at, say, the try that Jersey scored against London Irish 18 months ago, the 110-metre one. You look at some of the tries that were scored at Doncaster in our last game of the season. The tries away at Ealing. Everybody comes into it with a bit of with more positive intent than other people may realise.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But that's when you break it down and into each area. Defences are getting better and better. Attacks are getting better and better. Set pieces are getting better and better. And that's as the game sort of evolves. It's who can stay ahead of the curve as much as possible. And we go into every game with the intent to score from our own try line if it's the right decision to make. And that's the key bit is you learn about the league, you learn about your oppositions, you find out opportunities to expose, and then can you expose them? And with Saracens in the league, yeah, more people will watch it, but I don't think necessarily it will mean that too many people change their style of rugby or what they do. I just think you've got a good opportunity now over the next couple of years, probably wider for the Championship, for the whole league to expand and develop and evolve and enhance what they're doing. And if that's because Saracens are coming into it, creates more exposure for the league, then great. But I think if you ask every DOR in the league, they're constantly trying to do that anyway.
But as far as in terms of the springboard into the future, this almost the chance for everybody to reach out and grab it as a collective. I mean, there was the blueprint that Cov put together with Pirates and Ealing and contributions from Scottish as well, which was announced back in February. The stuff in there, there's no better time to do it.
Definitely, the championship definitely is to wake up to, and the clubs and the people within those clubs in the championship need to wake up to what's happening in the wider world of rugby and make sure we're at the front foot and we're on the front foot, and we're ahead of the game and we can be in control of our own destiny a little bit more and make the league and make the English game and what we're doing something that we're really trying to contribute to and a bit more forward thinking and future proofing what we're doing. But for years the championship hasn't been that, and that's probably the biggest risk and the biggest challenge that we face. And whether that's coronavirus or the RFU cuts or all the different things that put that into perspective a bit more, or Saracens coming into the league, that's all irrelevant. We need to have that change of thought so that we are moving forward as a league and really putting our best foot forward.
Do you think, from a Coventry perspective, you've worked at Saints as a successful club, and looking at the coaching side, Ant Deeks, Ross Stewart, Chris Hart have all been involved around successful Premiership academies and Premiership teams, and then in the administration side, Nick with Sale and Saints and various other things. Myself at Premiership clubs as well. There is that experience to know what it takes to put a club and a successful team together.
Yeah, we've constantly talked about when I came into the club, when it came to National One, we wanted to become championship ready in everything we did, and probably initially we thought that championship ready was a tag that we really aspired to, but as we became more aware of what the championship was, we realised we were probably doing ourselves a disservice there. So when we came into the championship, it's about how do we become premiership ready on and off the pitch, and how do we enhance every part of our programme and our provision to become that sort of leading way in the league. And the individuals you've just mentioned, their experiences, their influence, and their backgrounds that they've got, all play a part, and they're all cogs within the Coventry wheel, and it keeps turning towards that. And however many setbacks or knocks we have, that's part of the game, and that's how we work. But we are definitely moving in that right way, and I'm excited to see where it goes.